All right, guys, welcome back. Mr. George Remus here. We've got another build guide today for the first Descendant. Today, we're going to be looking at Harris. He's quickly become one of my favorites, and I think everybody else will too. Recently got buffed, super strong, super powerful, super fun, right in the action. Heals yourself. I don't have Onslaught footage, unfortunately, but I did use a variant of this build in Onslaught, and she was doing just fine, holding her own. Not quite as strong as Dia was, but she was up there. She was a contender. Without further ado, let's get into it. And if you find anything today helpful, consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and dropping a comment below to help support channel growth. All right, before we really get into it, I want to make sure we all understand how Harris works. If you've never used her before, it could be a little confusing on what's going on. The bread and butter to Harris in general, regardless of which mod you're running on her right now, is her passive ability. She has a special resource called Toxin. And how this works is, unlike somebody like Ultimate Eugen, you need to constantly be getting her toxin levels into all three categories. It says on each step to maintain it for half a second. It goes by really fast, so above 30, above 70, and then below 30. Each one gives a distinct buff. The highlights would be cooldown decrease, duration up, HP increase, defense increase, and then melee weapon increase and skill power increase for tier 3. You can kind of see it in game here. Right now I have no toxin, so I have no passives. When you use your one ability, it gives you a little bit of juice. You can see it to the right of the screen, go up. Two ability also gives you some juice. Now you can see I have level 2 activated. Now I have level 3. Now if I sit here without dispersing any of the toxin, you'll see here in a second, one of those buffs will drop off here in a moment. And it's because I didn't deplete it, so it's no longer triggered. So to get that back, you have to use your 4 and your 3. Get yourself back down, and it re-triggers it as long as you go back to it. This is the constant loop. You are constantly going up and down with her special resource. All right, so we're going to jump into the mods now. For what we're going to use to start off is safety training. If you don't know how this mod works, it changes her 2 and her 3 abilities. They become healing abilities. Overall, she does lose the AoE damage over time ring that you get when you're moving around, but we're going to counter that with our trigger mod. We'll go over that too when we get there. But this being able to heal while you're in the thick of combat is really nice. It also overheals and can heal your teammates, so this is kind of like a support thing. I do feel like this is superior of the Transcendent mods because the other one's kind of a weapon one, and without running it, it's kind of hard. It's a little bit harder to maintain her stats. I think this is a very much a slept on Transcendent mod for Harris because it helps keep you alive in combat. Looking at the mods themselves, you might notice I'm using Shield Charge. You might have heard Widespread Execution is popular with her, and it is very good with her. This is a preference thing. You're going to get more skill power out of this. Okay, like this is really good on her. I went with Shield Charge. This used to be the old mod for her because we're still going to be getting a lot of defense on her. Like you're not getting the full effect of this ability because now it's more efficient to build into HP. But if you would rather run Widespread Execution, go for it. The downside of this is you got to maintain the added skill cooldown. And if you're not really familiar with her, that's kind of hard to do. But it is a solid choice if that's what you go for. The other things in our kit is power increase, skill simplification. These are in place of focus mods. If you want to run focus mods instead, you can. But we're going to finish with about a little less than 90% cooldown as long as we're maintaining her 1 anyway. That is also, again, a preference thing. You build up to this, run the other if you're more comfortable with that. Nimble Fingers, MP conversion. She doesn't have MP, so this is all gain. Same thing with Stem Accelerant and increased HP. We're running so much HP because Harris gets increased damage now based off of her health. What you want is about 28,000 health. That's the goal, and we get there. I think we end up with 30 when you count her passive ability. We're also going to use Fusion Amplification and Toxic Amplification for a little bit more damage, and then Skill Expansion. Now, the trigger mod, you actually have 2 options here. I went with Steel Vanguard. When you use a Clash ability, you do an AoE gas effect. It kind of fixes the fact that we took that away from her 3. The other popular choice is Battering Ram. This was more of a defense build kind of thing that people were using. It reduces the defense of enemies and based off of your defense and the resistances. This was kind of the old way to use it. I think it's a little bit more efficient to use Steel Vanguard since we're building into her HP anyway. But this does come to a preference. You guys can use whatever. If you're going to be hitting enemies a little harder, like you want to do a little bit more damage to bosses, this is what you're going to want to run. This is more for AoE. This is where I'm kind of in the preference of. Now, looking at the Ancestor mod, I have not found that perfect Ancestor mod that I'm happy of. But one thing that Harris has that's unique to her, at least with safety training, is if you can get a negative roll on skill cost, which makes your skills cost more, as long as it's not huge, it's actually a benefit to her because you'll be able to get back down to level 1 Toxin and then right back up again very quickly. It only will take 2 skill uses instead of 3, maybe 4. If you have, like I have the skill cost down, this actually hurts my build a little bit, but it's the best I have. Other than that, fusion skill power root and toxic skill power root, like perfect roll. Okay, fusion ratio, toxic ratio, negative skill cost would be amazing for this build. Absolutely fantastic. Something else you can flirt with if you want to go the defense route is skill cooldown greater than 25% and as much defense as possible with some kind of negative. Again, a negative, which would be a positive, skill cost would be huge here. And then you could swap out nimble fingers. So you could drop nimble fingers and then put shield charge back on. Well, I don't have the space for it, but you get the idea. You could pull that build off too. I haven't been able to test that to see if it's better getting rid of the toxic ratios, but that's just an idea if you guys want to go that route. Looking at the tools of her kit, we did go with toxic mixture reactor. I ran skill cooldown, fusion skill power boost ratio. You could, depending on what your Ancestor mod is, swap that skill cooldown for toxic ratio. That's up to you, depending on what your Ancestor rolls are. This is what I had, and we still finish at a good spot on skill cooldown. Our component set we're going to go with this Hazmat Disposal Team. This is kind of made for Harris. We are running, I'm too lazy to go get anything other than MP stuff, but you really want as much shield and HP, anything that's not MP on her because she doesn't have MP. I just didn't go farm another set. It currently doesn't matter a whole lot, but if you want to be mid-maxing, that you don't want the MP recovery stats that I have on these. If you don't want to run more skill power and you want to lead into the sword, you do have one of my favorite sets, the Mana set. I ran both on Harris specifically. The damage from Hazmat is well worth it over this, but if you want to lean into your sword damage more, this is an option for you. And then speaking of swords, we're going to run a shadow build. Here's a quick overview of what I'm using. I do use the sword in combat from time to time. She does get some sword damage buff, but her skill power damage is just so good. It's hard to stop using it in favor of this sword, even though it's a really good sword. And again, here's a quick overview of the build that I use. I have Veil Analyzer on. If you don't want to run Veil Analyzer, I would run Slaughterer instead for even more damage. I was trying different things with Onslaught. Arche tuning, this took me a little bit to be like totally happy with, but the direction that we went was obviously as much skill power as possible. We got all those nodes. You don't need the skill cooldown here. We're going to finish with about 90% skill cooldown anyway. I did grab the defense and the HP. These are both important, and the HP recovery, because this is nice. I think this is one of the more slept on things. Mutant cell that we went with was Corrosive Overshield. When attacking with an overshield type skill, which we have, you get toxic skill power boost ratio buff, which is pretty nice. It's more damage. So this is just honestly, I could not come up with a more satisfactory setup on the arche tuning than this. For the current season, which we only got 14 days left, but the current inversion reinforcement, I leaned into the melee. I got the acceleration protocol and the blade trajectory. Those are a given for the melee side. The skill side, though, this is really your choice. I went with the movement speed buff. It does have a 20-second cooldown. But if you would rather, you can go for circulation tactic. That gives you skill cooldown, which is overflowed. But those are your two options. I found the movement speed to be way more useful. Some final thoughts to talk about before you like dive into Captain Harris, if you haven't already, is she kind of takes a bit to get used to. I feel like PC players have a distinct advantage with her skills. Being able to aim with your mouse and shoot where you want to go with your 2 is pretty powerful. If you're playing on a gamepad or controller, you do get to use your second ability, and then your first, third, and fourth become directional commands, either straight down, straight forward, or down to an angle to kind of give you the illusion of the movement that PC has. It's not, in my opinion, it's not quite as good. The only one that's particularly good with that is the straight down. Is pretty nice to just go straight down without having to aim at all. Something else that I feel like is important to note is she is amazing at high-end content, but once you start getting to like the easier stuff where speed really matters more than anything else, she becomes less efficient. So like 400 dungeons, she is not my first choice at all. But in-game content, she has been a favorite of mine. I've been wanting to make this video for a minute, so I'm glad I got around to it. I appreciate you guys. If you haven't yet, feel free to like video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below if there's something else you'd like to see or you have any questions. Thank you guys.